Earlier this week, I was walking the gardens and jotting down some to-do items in my journal that I knew needed to be done to prep the garden for spring. And as I was walking around and the trees were coming back to life and everything is blooming out, I really had this thought that I wanted to share with you today. Well, if this is your first time here, my name is Brianna, and my husband Gray and I live a slow life at home, learning, practicing, and teaching our children traditional skills. You are going to have to bear with my voice today. I am getting over a little cold. I do sound a little different than I normally do. Well, as a homesteader, I think this topic of balancing wildlife and nature and our own personal production goals is a really important one, because we are going to run into nature in one way or another, actually a lot of ways. And I think that our relationship with the wildlife that comes into our gardens and orchards and vineyards and around our animals is really important, because I think that if you're constantly fighting wildlife, you have an uphill battle for you. I believe that as homesteaders, we are privileged to steward the land and the wildlife on our land. And my goal is not only to produce good organic food for my family, but also to create this ecosystem here on the property where everything works together. And so that means bugs and birds and things that might be considered a threat to our food production. I don't constantly want to be fighting nature as a homesteader. But I will say that in the beginning, circa 2010 to about 2013, I didn't always think this way. When I first got started homesteading, I was really committed to being efficient and growing everything that I could and not wasting a thing. Gray and I both would harvest everything that we could off the vine. If I wasn't able to get to some of the food that was on the vine before it went bad, I had this sense of guilt, like I was a bad homesteader, that I couldn't get all of the food processed and up on the shelves. Since then, especially after having children, I have a much more relaxed approach about it. I no longer worry if the birds are in the orchard or there are bugs in the garden, because I plant enough for them. Your homesteading journey is really at risk if you worry about these inevitable parts of nature. The birds will come. If you are planting a beautiful garden and a beautiful orchard and you have water sources close by, it feels nice to you, and it's going to feel nice to birds and butterflies and all living things, and it's going to bring them in. And rather than fight that and be hostile and get worked up about things that are undesirable or that you're personally not raising, embrace them, realize they're all part of the process, plant enough for everyone, and don't stress if a part of your garden has gone to certain pest or predator. There are preventative actions that you can take. For example, I no longer plant all of one type of vegetable in one area in our garden. For years, I have planted crops in 2 or even 3 areas of the garden. And so if we have cabbage worms that come through and eat the cabbage, it's not likely that they're going to get to all of it. Of course, there are organic pest control methods, and we do take action in that way. It's balancing that relaxed ease with how we embrace wildlife and production of food for our family. Over the years, homesteading has constantly afforded me opportunity to rethink modern systems. When we just go off of popular culture and what is kind of the go-to setup for a yard, we can really be led astray to what is the most efficient way to set up a yard and landscaping. Just recently, for example, we realized that we could provide a much more sustainable source of feed for our sheep. We have an extremely large lawn, yet we were buying hay for our sheep. This was not only expensive, but also not a sustainable way to feed them. We now let our sheep graze our lawn that we used to mow, right? Without spending time in nature and really observing it, we might miss these seemingly obvious shifts to being more efficient, but also working with nature rather than against it. Another example is that we grow a huge hedge of artichokes every year, and they produce a lot. And the old me would have felt very guilty had I not harvested every single one and canned them. Now I can enjoy them as ornamentals. We eat as many as we are content to eat. If I have the time or desire, I put those up. But otherwise, I can feel good about enjoying them after they've bloomed, because once an artichoke blooms, it is one of the most beautiful flowers. So many beneficial pollinators love the artichoke bloom. Leaving some of the plants until they bolt or seed is a great way to replenish our resources. And so with our artichokes, I leave a portion of them to flower out because, like I said, they're beautiful. The pollinators love them, and we don't need to eat all of the artichokes that we grow. And they produce all of the seed, and every year we have a surplus of artichoke babies or tiny little plants that form underneath the hedge. And I can take these, I can give these away, I can plant these in another area of the property. But if I was so focused on production, getting everything into the kitchen and putting it up and not letting any go to waste, then I would be missing out on this really important part of nature, which is the reproductive time in this plant's life. And so we recently have gotten really interested in planting specific seed-saving gardens, because we do this in passive ways in our kitchen garden because we allow nature to take its course. Now, I do realize that because of our climate, this is an option because we don't have super harsh winters. But I think that in every climate, there are ways that you can work with nature and not against nature. Okay, I went on a little bit of a rant there, but I hope you can understand what I'm saying. And I've given you a little bit of food for thought in embracing nature rather than resisting nature on your homestead. If you have any questions or you are interested in me talking about this topic in the future, I would love for you to leave a comment down below, and I will see you next time.